Escape from Alcatraz. On the night of the 18th of January 1960, convict Frank Morris enters the federal penitentiary at Alcatraz, an island fortress situated in San Francisco Bay, California, after being strip-searched and given a dark blue prison uniform. Frank is summoned to the office of the warden, who warns him that Alcatraz is unique within the U.S. prison system for its exceedingly high level of security. According to his file, Frank has an exceptional IQ and has escaped from other facilities, but the warden informs him that no inmate has ever successfully escaped from Alcatraz. During the conversation, the warden fails to notice that Frank has stolen one of the nail clippers on the desk. Over the next several days, Frank makes acquaintances with a few inmates. Among them are Litmus, a lifer who keeps a pet mouse, English, an African-American man serving 2 consecutive 99-year sentences for a double murder, and the prison librarian, and Chester Doc Dalton, an elderly man who paints portraits and once grew chrysanthemums at Alcatraz. However, Frank also encounters a bully named Wolf, who harasses him in the showers and later attacks him in the prison yard with a shank. The guards break up the fight, and both men are sent to solitary confinement cells in D Block, despite Frank merely acting in self-defense. 2 weeks later, after being released from the brutal, isolated conditions, Frank settles into the routine of Alcatraz in a job in the carpentry shop and running books for English from the library. English commands deep respect in the prison yard, sitting high above the other inmates. Frank also befriends a new inmate in the adjoining cell, Charlie Butts. When the warden enters Doc's cell unannounced, he sees that Doc has painted a very detailed portrait of the warden. At first, the warden appears flattered, but later he cruelly orders Doc's painting privileges to be eliminated without explanation. Devastated, Doc intentionally chops off 3 of his fingers in the carpentry shop with a hatchet. Frank and the other inmates soon learn that the warden saw the portrait of himself among Doc's paintings and was responsible for ordering the sadistic penalty. In his cell one day, Frank sees a roach climb into the ventilator grill underneath the sink. Using the nail file he stole from the warden, he chips off a piece of the concrete around the opening. Along with brothers John and Clarence Anglin, who are Frank's friends from another prison, and Charlie, Frank plans an escape. Because the moist air and the salt water surrounding Alcatraz have softened the concrete foundation and corroded the metal over the last several decades, Frank thinks they can dig an opening around their ventilators large enough to crawl through and access the shaft leading to the roof. To mislead the guards during head counts, Frank suggests making dummy heads, using flesh-colored paint and hair from the barber shop. Since John works in the clothing shop, he can secure raincoats that can be combined with contact cement to make a raft and life preservers. Charlie takes up painting to procure the colors needed to create the dummy heads and create cardboard coverings for the cell vents. Over the next several nights, as Charlie keeps watch, Frank continues to scoop out his opening with the nail file and uses an accordion to disguise the hole. He later sneaks a spoon from the cafeteria and welds it to the file to provide a better grip for digging, a trick he learns from English using filings from a dime he gets from Litmus. Using a wedge he sneaks from the carpentry shop, he is able to kick out the metal grill and takes his first peek into the shaft. Charlie and the Anglins start to chisel their openings, while Frank creates his dummy head. When the decoy is finished, Frank lays the fake head on the cot, as if he is sleeping, and takes his first trip into the passageway. Initially, the guard is fooled by the dummy, but later becomes suspicious when he notices that Frank has not moved. However, Frank miraculously returns to the cot before the decoy is exposed. The following day, Frank learns that the Anglin brothers are making progress on their openings and heads, but Charlie is behind schedule. During the next trip into the passageway, John brings the raincoats and begins preparing the flotation devices. Meanwhile, Frank investigates the iron rods and hood blocking the exit to the roof and devises a makeshift drill from a small fan to remove their structural support. With the passageway clear and the rafts almost ready, Frank schedules the escape for Tuesday night, June 11th, 1962. A few days later, on the day of the planned escape, the warden requests a shakedown of Frank's cell and finds nothing unusual. However, when he hears that Frank and Charlie stay up late conversing, he issues orders for the two inmates to be relocated to different cells as soon as possible. That night, Frank, John, Clarence, and Charlie plan to meet in the passageway and escape. However, Charlie panics and fails to rendezvous with them. Carrying the flotation gear, Frank and the brothers access the roof and avoid the searchlights. From there, they scramble down the side of the building into the prison yard, climb over a barbed wire fence, and make their way to the shore of the island where they inflate the raft. The three men enter the water and begin kicking. The next day at dawn, a guard orders Frank to get up and prepare for relocation to a new cell. When there is no response, the guard slaps the head and it rolls on the floor. The alarm sounds and English smiles knowing that Frank has escaped. As police search the area, there is no evidence to indicate whether or not the three inmates survived. But the warden does not want to blemish his perfect record and insists they drowned. The fates of Frank, Clarence, and John are left unknown, even after an extensive investigation by the FBI.